Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I just disturbed one of the cats. As you can see, I'm in an undisclosed location because I am house sitting for some family and their kitties, and I got a haircut. I know it probably doesn't look very different to most of you, but to me it does. Doesn't look that great right now either because I haven't done my hair in months, so it's just what it is. But today we're going to do a little bit of a get ready with me along with a advice kind of video, if that makes sense. I don't know really what inspired this, but I wanted to do a video kind of just on what advice I wish I could give my younger self. I thought I could reach out on my Instagram, so I had a few people respond. Thank you to those who responded. We'll definitely touch on your feedback as well. But if you're new here, hi, I'm Casey Luhan, and this is my YouTube channel. I only have about 3 videos up as a creator. I was formerly a news reporter, so on my channel you'll also find some of my professional work, but lately I've just been getting into the more fun YouTube side of things. I've watched it for years and now I'm gonna try it. Basically, I'm gonna do my makeup and also just go through the different advice that I came up with and that people sent into me of what they wish they'd known when they were younger. I mean, specifically for me, I definitely think about like high school. It's like a really tough time, like you're just going through a lot in general, and for me, it was a time of a lot of, I don't want to say self-hatred, but a lot of insecurity is what I would say. I'm taking the e.l.f. primer because I just had a lot going on, especially when I had just turned like 13, 14 in 7th grade. I was having a lot of body issues. I eventually was diagnosed with an eating disorder that really stemmed from underlying issues with my OCD and anxiety, and it was just a really trying time for me. I had to leave school for a little bit to get the treatment I needed. Luckily, you know, I got the help I needed and I've done really well since then. I still go to therapy, which I think is really important, and I have medication that really helps me with my anxiety and depression. And I'm really thankful for where I am, and I wouldn't have got there without the friends I had in high school. And that's another thing I want to preface, like, with all this advice that I'll be giving. It's specific to my situation. Like, I've been reflecting a lot as well on my privileged upbringing and my privileged life in general. In the midst of the Black Lives Matter movement, I've just really been reflecting on the fact that, like, I need to acknowledge some things in my life that have made it easier for me. Like, I'm so lucky, and just in general, you know, I had parents who were loving and who had good jobs and who always had a roof over my head, and we never worried about where food was going to come from. So some of my advice is going to stem from having that positive situation, and I know that that may be triggering from some people, or they might just not come from a situation where they have the opportunity to take some of this advice I'm listing. And I just wanted to point that out because I am thinking about that. I am trying to be more conscious about that. I'm going to use the Maybelline Master Prime by Face Studio. All of this was in my first Get Ready With Me video that you can check out. It'll be up in the cards as well, that little eye symbol, and you can see step by step there. So the first piece of advice here that I wrote was that you notice your imperfections far more than anyone else is ever going to. I wrote this kind of like, you know, in general to, like, I would tell it to any young person right now, but I also wrote it to a younger version of me. One of my, like, really main issues with, obviously, with, like, physical, the way I looked, I really had a problem, like, when I started getting acne. Like, I really was, like, obsessed over getting that off my face. Like, it was a really big point of contention for, like, my OCD for whatever reason, and that really triggered me, like, trying to control the things I ate because I thought that would help with my acne, and then that kind of spiraled. And, like, what I noticed as I got older is, like, you notice those zits on your face or those scars or the way your belly looks in a certain shirt way more than anybody else notices. Like, I started thinking about how I have friends who deal with acne too, and I never, like, was, like, staring at their acne or, like, noticing it or judging them. Like, I never even thought about it, and I was like, oh, they're probably not even thinking about my acne either. And a lot of advice that people sent into me goes kind of with that whole, like, embracing yourself and trying not to worry what other people think. My friend Alexa sent in, stop comparing yourself to others and caring what they think, you are good enough. And that's really true. That was really big for me, I feel like my senior year, because I was struggling with like what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, and everybody else seemed to have their life together. Spoiler alert, they don't have their life together. You just think they do. And I remember seeing this poster in my math teacher's room that said, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think about that a lot, and I think a lot about how other people's success does not equate your failure. My boyfriend Eddie also sent in some advice. He said that a lot of things I didn't like about myself would actually be some of my good qualities, and I thought that was really interesting. But I do think that it's true that maybe some of the things that you think make you different are gonna end up being some of the things that you really like about yourself. My friend Morgan sent in, be yourself, tell people you love your secrets. Now, I thought this was really beautifully written. Be yourself, tell people you love your secrets. I was like, whoa. But also, like, the more I thought about it, I was like trying to think of how it applied to my life. One of the big things for me was like revealing to people that I have OCD and depression. I'm gonna go wet my beauty sponge real quick. Okay, we're back. The whole tell the people that you love your secrets, like that was one of mine, was my mental illnesses and the struggles I had with that. And especially when I was hospitalized and had to miss some school in high school, like people had questions. And you know, of course I was selective with the people I told the full story to, like that's very personal and not everybody needed to know. And I wasn't ready, I don't think, for everybody to know. But your friends, and this sounds cliche, but if they're really your friends, like no matter what you tell them, they're gonna wanna stick with you. And like those are the kind of friends you want. Those are the kind of friends you're gonna look back on, you know, when you graduate college, and they're still gonna be your friends. Like those are the special ones. Okay, so moving on to some of the other things I was thinking about. One of the things I kept thinking of was like communication, especially with my grandparents. I was like really lucky. Wow, there's like no foundation left in here. I was really lucky and had my grandparents until I was well into high school, when I lost my first grandparent. And then I had all of my grandparents left, like my dad's mother and my mom's parents, up until last year. The loss was really hard, and I still think about them all the time, and I miss them. And I was so lucky, like a lot of kids grow up not really remembering or knowing their grandparents. But one thing I always think about is like, I wish I'd asked them more about their lives. If you have those grandparents in your life, or just even elderly relatives that you're close to, ask them about their lives. It's so valuable, and you don't realize how much it is until you don't have that option anymore. I referred earlier to like coming from a really privileged position, like a very lucky position where I have parents that love and care for me. I wish I had been kinder to them in my teen years. I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think advice I would give to myself, because I know I would still have those feelings, because it's just like natural when you're a teen, I would say know when to walk away from a fight that isn't going anywhere. Try to actually take some of the advice your parents have. Maybe it doesn't end up being exactly what you want to hear or exactly the right thing, but just try. Okay, now we're gonna move on to another question I got in from my friend. It says, I avoided girls I shared a mutual attraction with because I was afraid of being vulnerable, so probably that. And I think a lot of people feel that way. Like I kept a diary like from elementary through high school, and I like talked about all my crushes and everything on there, and I never like, of course I never confronted them or had conversations with them, but at the same time I don't necessarily regret like not being romantically involved with anyone in high school. Like this is very personal, like it's different for every person, but I just feel like I wasn't ready for that. Like I didn't have my first kiss until I was 19, so I was in college. I don't regret that at all. Like I feel like for me it was just, even though I like for so long in high school was like, oh, I wish I had a boyfriend, I wish somebody would ask me to a dance, like all this stuff. Looking back on it, like I don't think it would have made my life any better or worse. And I do think I learned to focus more on myself and my friends, and valuing and loving the relationships I had with them and myself, so that I could share that love with someone else later in my life. You have so much time to find that like kind of love, that I just don't know if it's like the thing I even wanted to focus on as much as I did. I mean, I think definitely there's value in being open about like your feelings, and like I don't think that's ever a bad thing. Like, of course, the worst thing that can happen is rejection, and you know that sucks, but like honestly, it's just part of life and part of love and part of relationships. The fact that you shared it and you're learning then to be vulnerable and open is going to help you so much more down the line. Man, this e.l.f. concealer really is that bitch. This 16-hour camo concealer, it's so good. Like, you really don't need that much foundation if you're going to be using this. That was all the submitted things I had. I'm just trying to like think of some other things, and one of the things I think is really important is to not be afraid to ask for help. I feel like especially when I got into like my senior year, I was just so freaking like overwhelmed, and I like wanted to be able to handle everything on my own, so I never really asked for help. But like literally there's no reason not to. Like, people want to help you, like whether that's your parents or an older friend or a mentor or a teacher. Like, ask for help. You're never gonna regret that you did. It is hard to talk an eyebrow at the same time, let me tell you that. I'd say another thing that I wish I'd focused less on is having everything figured out. I just think figure out what you enjoy doing and try to see the best way you can fit that into a career and pursue that with your whole heart. And that's easier said than done, obviously. But like for me, this whole YouTube thing, I've thought about for years, and I just kept saying like I didn't have time or I didn't know how I would do it. Like, try to make the time and try those things, and if they don't work out, they don't work out. Like, don't ever think of anything as like a waste of time. Like, you existing from day to day and living and loving other people and just being is like more than enough. It's more than enough. I'm preparing for my next video. It's going to be a ColourPop first impressions on their tie-dye collection. I ordered some items from there, so if you are a makeup fan, definitely stay tuned for that. Hopefully that will be my next video. We're gonna go into this NYX eye primer, because I told you guys in my eyeshadow challenge, the last video, that I probably should be using this, because when I'm using cheaper shadows, these kind of give them a fighting chance. When I did some Googling on the best drugstore eye primers, ooh, it's like, it's sticky, and I don't think like rubbing it in is like what you're supposed to do. Uh-oh. Turns out I don't know what I'm doing. Set and let dry for a bit. So I'm gonna set it with some like white shadow. Ooh, yeah, it's tacky, like, which is good, I guess. Try to go in with like a crease shade here. But yeah, you guys let me know in the comments like some advice you wish you had gotten. Ooh, wow, that is making this eyeshadow a lot more pigmented than I'm used to. I think a lot of the struggles I faced obviously came internally from other things that I was dealing with. I also like really encourage young people to try to get politically involved. I really didn't start looking into politics until I was in college, and like I regret that. That's what's happening right now. That's what's happening in the streets. That's what's happening online. That's what's happening across our country. We need leaders in this country for our generations to come. Wow, I am really impressed. Like, that eyeshadow primer is already making this so much more pigmented than it normally is. Like, I'm used to taking a ton, and now I'm like, the only thing I would say is it was like a little tacky, so like be careful where you get it, because it's kind of messing with my foundation right here. I'll show you guys up close in a little bit, but just like be careful. We're gonna try to go in with some of this yellow that wasn't picking up during our previous makeup experiment. Yeah, that is much better than before. I mean, it's still not like a super bright color necessarily, but it's better than we were looking on the Hundreds eyeshadow challenge or whatever I called it. If you are a young person watching this, just know that things are going to change so much. Like, you may think that the way you are now is the way things are going to be forever, but that's not necessarily true. It gets better, I guess is what I'm saying, and that's coming from someone who had it pretty good. I don't want anyone to ever feel isolated or sad, and it's so easy to, especially right now. And like, I'm actually going to link in this video some of the resources on Instagram that I've found really helpful recently, and just reminders to care for yourself and to rest and recharge, because that's the only way we're going to get through this. Is we gotta keep fighting, but we also have to know how to balance it. We are going to need to fight this fight for a long time, but it's also really important to take care of yourself. So we're living through a social revolution and uprising. I, for one, am really excited to be a part of the change. You know, in whatever small or big way I can do that. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot, but it's so important. I was so much more of a selfish and closed-minded person when I was a teenager than I am now. And just seeing how selfless some of the young people leading this movement are is overwhelmingly beautiful. You guys can see that yellow looks so much better using this NYX Prove It eyeshadow stuff. I'm gonna pop it up on the screen. I'll definitely keep playing with this. I feel like it'll be really helpful with the ColourPop shadows as well. I don't know what it is necessarily about high school that makes it feel like it's forever. There's this quote from 17, the remake of 17 with Zac Efron, where he says something along the lines of, when you're young, you feel like everything is the end of the world, and then you grow up and realize it's not. And that's so true, and it's so, I feel like, important to remember. There's no way of predicting what that change is going to look like, and that's scary, but just knowing that all you have is right here and now, and that's what's in your control, it's important to remember, I think. Okay, looking pretty cool. I know this video is like kind of strange and maybe a little unstructured, but I don't know, I just wasn't really super inspired. I just obviously felt like the things I had to say weren't important right now. I mean, it's the time to listen, of all things. So if you guys have anything you've been listening to or reading from Black Voices that you think would be educating or inspiring for me, please feel free to leave them below. I would love to check them out. Let's take a closer look. I'm doing like a real peachy yellow summer look today. It was getting a little patchy over here, but I think it's better now. Okay, these aren't necessarily layering as nicely as I would have liked with that primer, but that might also be me doing something wrong. I don't know. It definitely helped with like the pigmentation of these cheaper eyeshadows. I like the way this is turning out. Primer is probably a good idea. I guess we'll see how it wears. This is like a makeup hybrid talk advice video, but I hope you guys liked it. I'm gonna put some eyeliner, mascara on, some blush, and then I'll come right back and we'll wrap things up. Bronzing, highlighting later. That sentence didn't make any sense, but I'm gonna do one more coat of mascara because more is more. I know this video was like strange and hopefully made some sort of coherent sense. I just kind of wanted to talk and to recognize the change that's coming, and change can be scary, but more often than not it leads to something good, and that is what I and many others, I think, are truly hoping as we move forward. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here once again, but I probably won't be in this room here ever again. This was a special circumstance. Let me just take my phone off there. Here's the finished look. Like I said, you can check out my original Get Ready With Me video to see more about how I get here. I will keep testing out that NYX eyeshadow primer to see if I still keep loving it. Let me know in the comments, like I said, kind of advice you wish you had been given, or advice that has been helpful to you. I can take all the advice. I need all the advice I can get, but we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel, ring the bell so that you do not miss any of my uploads. Also give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. All right, bye.